I'm making a team of only college quarterbacks, and it started out way better than I thought it would. I figured filling out this defense would be rough, and it will be, but seeing Jordan Travis as a 68 overall left end gives me some hope, because I believe he can keep up with other MAC players, as I'll be using Akron in this video, and after I finish building this roster of all QBs, I'll be simming to the end of the season in Dynasty, where if we don't make the 12-team playoff, I have to give away a jersey to a random commenter, and then I'll be putting this team into the playoffs anyway, where if we can't win it all, I have to give away a second jersey. This has the potential to go really bad, so I need to focus on building the best roster that I can, and the first thing I'll do is lock in our 3 starting quarterbacks. Caleb Williams is the only 99 overall, so obviously we need to start him, but he does become an 80 overall halfback, so we are losing out on that by not having him at that position. Then the next player behind him is going to be Drake May, and the final quarterback depth of this team is insane. There's so many different players that weren't good enough to play at any other position, but they are here at QB, so this is the one position that we're not going to struggle with, but our offensive line's probably going to be a way different story. To find somebody for this position, I just have to search by the blocking rating, and for some reason Nevada's Brendan Lewis has 69 pass block but no run block or impact blocking. This means at the guard position he's only a 45 overall, so I had to keep looking for other talent, and Colorado State's Braden Fowler-Nicolosi's the best one that I could find. He's a 64 overall, which honestly isn't that bad, but he's 6'1" and weighs 185 pounds, so he's not great for the offensive line, but there's another player in this Colorado State quarterback room we need, and that is Clay Millen, who must have played defense in high school. When I move him over to free safety, he becomes a 70 overall, and I was expecting to have 40 overalls out there, so I will gladly take this. 72 speed is pretty rough for a safety, but I have to take him with these other stats. And back to filling out an offensive line of only quarterbacks, as Kemper Hodges is next. The Air Force quarterback's only a 68 overall, and when I move him over the left tackle, he only drops down 6. He's not the tallest, but he weighs a bit more than Braden Fowler-Nicolosi, and from this point, the overalls on the offensive line are just gonna get worse. Utah has a freshman named Mac Howard, and at 6'2", 190, when you move him over to center, he becomes a 54 overall. Things get a little better with Jaden Clemens, who's a 56 at right guard, but none of these guys are very big, as he only weighs 208 pounds. Caleb Williams is used to not having a good offensive line though, so that should be fine. And just for reference, normally offensive linemen weigh at least 100 pounds more than what we're picking up. That's why I thought about maybe trying to add some size to the team, like Tanner Hughes, who weighs 240 and is 6'5", but when I put him at right tackle, he is only a 45 overall, so I was determined to find better, and I did in Asher Morgan. This kid is 6'4", 225, and over at right tackle, he's a 56, so if any of these 5 players belong on our offensive line, it's him. And I don't even want to touch much on the backups, because I scrolled for a long time to find the best ones, but even with all of that effort, none of them were above a 50 overall. I'm really excited to fill out our skill positions, but I should probably touch up on our defense a bit more first. And Kansas State's Will Howard has 65 tackling, so at 6'5", 242, I decided he would be best as our right outside linebacker. He's not the quickest, but compared to his defensive stats, he's much better at running, and I simply can't imagine this ending well for us. The main problem I'm running into on defense is any of these guys that have abilities on that side of the ball can fill in at almost any position, so I have to rotate them through every single one while comparing them to other players, and Chevin Cordero's a 66 strong safety. With 78 speed, he's faster than our other safety, and some of his defensive stats aren't terrible, but again, this is a team of all quarterbacks, so there's no way our defense should be good. When I look through coverage stats, there's actually some quarterbacks that aren't terrible, and when I saw Zachary Larrier, I knew I had to try some stuff out. The kid has 93 speed as the fastest quarterback in the game, and when you pair that with a zone coverage that's a 75 overall, he becomes a much better cornerback 1 than I thought we'd ever have. He's the second quarterback from Air Force to make this roster, with the first one being Kemper Hodges, our left tackle, and with speed in mind right now, I want to figure out our halfback position. I've decided to sort by speed and go through all of these players to see where they fill in best, but even though Jason Bean has 90, he only becomes a 73 overall halfback, which isn't as good as it's gonna get. One stat that really matters for the running back position is break tackle, and we also need to pair that with some speed, so Nevada's Brendan Lewis was the first option I looked at, and he's up to a 75. However, that's only good enough to make him our third stringer, so we had to look for more guys above him, and this is where speed came into play. Malik Hornsby, the second fastest quarterback in the game, has 91 speed, and he's a 75 overall, so I think he deserves to be above Brendan Lewis, especially with 83 spin and juke moves. But the ultimate running back is coming from this UCF quarterback room, and it is none other than John Rice Plumlee, who is a 78 overall. At 200 pounds with 88 ball carrier vision and 87 juke move, he's going to be pretty good, and to be honest, that position turned out way better than I thought it would. Now, it's not going to be easy to run the ball because of this offensive line, but we're just going to have to figure it out as we play through the season, and Texas A&M's Marcel Reed's an honorable halfback at halfback 4, but the main reason I'm putting him on the team is because he's also going to play corner for us, even though his stats there are terrible. He's our CB5, so he shouldn't see the field much, but somebody that will is Arkansas State's Jalen Rayner. It's kinda crazy that he's only a 65 overall quarterback, but when I move him over to corner, he becomes a 69, and he must have played on the defensive side of the ball at least in high school. He's the first player I've found that goes up in overalls by changing his position, but I'm not complaining because from here our DBs are about to fall off a cliff. With coverage stats like these, you'd think that some of them could still be decent, but I have to fill some other positions, and Jalen Mayden is one that we can't afford to put at corner. I think you'll be shocked when you see where I put him, but I went back to the UCF quarterback room, and 74 overall Xavier Williams becomes a 64 overall cornerback. He's got 81 speed with 75 man and zone coverage, but as happy as I am to add him, our backup DBs are going to be pretty rough. This next guy's actually about to play two different positions for us, and who would have thought that TCU's Chandler Morris could be used on the other side of the ball as a middle linebacker at a 58 overall. I know it's not good, especially because speed's the only thing he really has, but he'll be our backup at that position while also playing cornerback 4 for us. That's enough defense for the time being though, as I want to figure out our tight end, and for this one they need to be able to block, catch, and run. So Kentucky freshman quarterback Destin Wade was an amazing find as he's a 70 overall. It literally blew me away because his stats make it look like he's meant to play tight end, and trust me, he's the only player I found that could fill this role. Right behind him is a 57 overall in Raheem Jeter, and since the East Carolina quarterback's only a 69 overall, I shouldn't have expected to be able to move him over to tight end and him be any good. It gets even worse at the tight end 3 position, but I'll reveal that when I reveal all the wide receivers. And special teams is something that I can't forget about. I have no idea how accurate the rosters are from the guys that make these, but there's a quarterback with 60 kick power and accuracy, so Temple's EJ Warner's getting put at that position right now, and he's a 61 overall. This turned out way better than I thought it would, and our punter is Fresno State's Mikey Keene, who only has 49 kick power, but I figured that maybe his 58 accuracy could come into play at some point, and our special teams is off to a fantastic start. I guess I can also go ahead and reveal our kick returner and punt returner, because all of them are going to come from the halfback position, and it all goes back to Malik Hornsby, who had 91 speed with 93 excel. He's actually a 93 overall returner with Marcel Reed and Brendan Lewis behind him, and before I reveal all of our wide receivers, I'm going to finish up this defense. Now, I don't know what it is about this Florida State quarterback room, but we have 2 more guys to add, and the first one is AJ Duffy, who when I move him over the left end becomes a 67 overall, and surprisingly has stats like 80 finesse moves and 80 pursuit. He plays behind Jordan Travis, who's also from the Seminoles, and then at left outside linebacker, we're going to get somebody like Brock Glenn, who is a 69 overall. I don't know what's going on over there at Florida State, but they have some players that can play on defense, and I feel like having 3 from their quarterback room on this roster is pretty insane. As for some of the backups that aren't as insane, we have Buffalo's Richie Watts, who's a 61 overall left outside linebacker, and he'll be right behind AJ Duffy while also playing free safety for us. There's also 2 quarterbacks on this roster that have a way higher tackling than everybody else. So for Fresno State's Joshua Wood, we're going to put him over at right outside linebacker where he's a 62 overall, but I'd rather start 6'5" Will Howard, so he's going to be a backup. But Colton Fitzgerald from Georgia Southern is not, as at middle linebacker, he's a 67 overall. He had to have played defense at some point since all of his defensive stats are pretty high, and I'm glad they are because the rest of our middle linebacker core is not very good. Because they're such low overalls, I don't want to touch much on them, but just know that at least Colton Fitzgerald turned out to be good, and I think it's time I reveal who the best player on this defense is. From the second I found him, I've been patiently waiting for this moment, and 6'3", 220-pound San Diego State quarterback Jalen Mayden's a 79 overall there, but when I take him and move him over to right end, he actually goes up to an 82. He has solid defensive stats across the board, but he also has good coverage, so I was curious what would happen if we put him at corner, but he only becomes a 71, so it definitely makes sense to leave him as a rusher, and I can't believe that we have a quarterback that's actually good for our defense. Right behind him, there's a massive drop-off with Charlotte's Jalen Jones, as that kid's only a 64 overall, and our backup strong safety's actually going to stay on this Akron roster, as 69 overall Dejan Jennings only goes down to a 61 when you move him over there. That leaves us with just the defensive tackle and wide receiver positions remaining, and it's hard to find quarterbacks that are beefy enough to play defensive tackle, but when I saw that Luke Duncan was 6'6", I had to move him over to that position even though he's only a 60 overall, and right above him is Goose Crowder, who is a 61 overall and he's 6'3", but neither of them are good enough to start there because Bowling Green has this guy named Connor Bazelak who's actually pretty big. It's a big drop off from quarterback to defensive tackle since he starts as an 86, but he becomes a 65 here, and he's going to be undersized for a defensive tackle, but he's the best I could find. That wraps up this defense, which turned out way better than I thought it would, but if we want any chance of winning games, these receivers have to be amazing, and I'm sure my West Virginia fans wanted me to get Garrett Green involved, where I already looked at putting him at halfback, but he was only a 73, so I've moved him over to wide receiver, which makes him a 66, and of Of the 6 I've found, he's actually the worst one. That's right, there's some much better options, but I was disappointed in DJ Riles because even though he had the highest catching, due to his slow speed, he's only a 65, so I had to cross him off the table and find Daniel Richardson from FAU, who's a 68. All of his receiving stats are barely over 60 overall, which is why he won't be on the field much, but he's also our tight end 3. Things are about to get better though, as I'm now in the Arkansas quarterback room, and Malachi Singleton's the worst one there, but he is a 69 overall wide receiver, so he should see the field every so often for us. And what I find to be super important for players playing wide receiver is the route running. Cal has a quarterback named Sam Jackson V who has the highest route running in the game, and he's also not slow, so I think at least as a slot receiver, he's going to fill in nicely, and from here the overalls are just going to keep going up. At wide receiver 2, we're picking from the South Carolina quarterback room, and it's not Spencer Rattler, but instead Luke Dottie, who when I move him over there is a 74. Since his stats here are so good, I have to assume he's played there before, but nothing prepared me for what I saw out of this last guy. It turns out that I don't know much about Syracuse quarterback Garrett Schrader, because at 6'4", 225, he's a monster, and trust me, I explored putting him at other positions like tight end where he's a 73, but at wide receiver, he is also a 78, and we need to have somebody good at that position. Because of him, our wide receiver room turned out way better than I thought it would, and I have somebody that I can throw jump balls up to. For using only quarterbacks, I'm very happy with how this team turned out, and if you all like this video, I want to do it with wide receivers next, because I think I could build an even better team, but obviously I have this roster ready in game, and I'm happy to say it comes in at a 67 overall. Unfortunately for us, there's almost no chance we make the playoffs because we're projected to be so bad, but because we're in the MAC, there's always a chance that we could get lucky, and in our first matchup against an FCS school, we are going to go out and put up 49 points. Obviously, Caleb Williams did very well, but I do think it's a bit concerning how bad our defense is, and I'm expecting us to lose our first game to Indiana, but because we have Caleb Williams at quarterback, maybe he can pull off the miracle, and he puts up 49 again. I'm telling you, he is the answer, and Indiana's quarterback threw 2 interceptions to our defense, so I have to see who got them, and it was Zachary Larrier and Jalen Rayner. I figured we might get 2 wins max, so the fact that we already have it's incredible, and we get another, but at Kentucky is next on the schedule, and no matter what Caleb Williams does here, I don't think we can pull it off, but it was pretty close. Just because we have Caleb Williams, I could see us doing very well in MAC conference play, but he's had to do everything for us as he's leading the country in passing yards, and maybe we could make the 12-team playoff if we win out, as we're going to get the overtime win. There's a long season ahead of us, especially when our defense has given up that many yards, so I'm expecting things to go wrong for us at some point, but we beat Ohio. It's been close win after close win, and Eastern Michigan normally isn't very good, so 7 weeks into the season, we're sitting up here at 6-1, but again, I just can't imagine things to continue to go our way, and we destroyed Miami, Ohio. Our biggest game of the season, though, is coming against 6-2 Ball State, so if we're ever going to lose one, I could see it being this, and on the road, we're going to lose by 6. That pretty much confirms that we can't sneak into the playoffs, so I'm going to sim to the end of the year, and I'll be giving away at least 1 jersey to a random commenter, but I'm very happy and proud of how this team performed, so it's a shame that here near the end of the season, we dropped a couple, and we're going to miss out on the MAC championship, but we went 9-3. Caleb Williams was also in the Heisman race for us and for USC, but our version was not the one that won it, and that's unfortunate, but ours led the country in passing yards, while also throwing 44 touchdowns with only 4 interceptions. He ran the ball decently well, and so did John Rice Plumlee, who was also our second best receiver, but look at Garrett Schrader's stats. I knew he was going to do well, but our offensive line gave up a ton of sacks, and defensively, Will Howard had 82 tackles, while also being tied with Jordan Travis for the most sacks. Chevin Cordero and Zachary Larrier led the team in interceptions, and I'm excited to actually get to use this team in-game in the playoffs. Michigan's our opening round matchup, which is a little scary, especially since their only loss is to Ohio State, but somehow with only quarterbacks, we have the #1 offense in the country, and our defense is on the other end of the spectrum. This battle is going to be in the snow, and it's also on the road at the Big House, but I already have to give away 1 jersey, so I don't want to give away another, and with this kickoff, it is definitely not reaching the end zone. I think getting stops on defense is going to be the hardest part of the day, and Will Howard's my user where I'm getting in that hole. I didn't think we'd be able to get the Wolverines to a 3rd and 11, but Jordan Travis got some pressure, and then we make the tackle, so we've gotten them off the field, and it's time for John Rice Plumlee to shine. I'm not sure if running the ball is going to work, so I'm going to try to pass it with Caleb Williams, which is going to go to Sam Jackson V, and he broke a tackle. He is getting out of there. This is on Heisman, and he is still killing it, even though he is formerly a quarterback, and with this pass, Caleb Williams set a school record at Akron. This team has vastly outperformed my expectations, and John Rice Plumlee is open for the touchdown, so we've gone up 7-0 early, but there's still a long game ahead of us. Here on 3rd and 3, I'm going to try to get pressure in with Jordan Travis. He couldn't do it, and our man coverage obviously didn't stick with them, so it seems like the Wolverines are about to equalize on us, and I can't even blame Chevin Cordero for not being able to make the tackle. What I am curious about is if Malik Hornsby can can get anything going on these returns. He does have 91 speed, and he got the blocks that he needed from other quarterbacks. So we have the ball back, and honestly, we've been moving it like this isn't a team full of QBs. John Rice Plumlee's going to take this one all the way down to the 5, and if this offensive line can somehow hold their blocks, I'll keep giving it to him. Having Caleb Williams out there also makes things much easier as he's going to run it in, but where we really struggle is on the defensive side of the ball because Michigan's been running it all over us, and they've gotten it down to the 10-yard line where Blake Corum's going to take this handoff. But Georgia Southern's Golden Fitzgerald just made one of the greatest tackles of all time, at least for a quarterback that is, and I'm hoping we're able to get them off the field, but they've gone back to him, and I think this is going to go to the house. There's a flag on the play though, so we'll see if they bring it back, and we are so lucky. If we were ever going to hold the Wolverines to a field goal, now would be the time, as they have it on a 2nd and 19, but they have so much time back there in the pocket, and that's going to be intercepted. We have forced an interception with quarterbacks. I don't know where JJ McCarthy was looking, but this has to be the final drive of the half, and Caleb Williams is just going to escape the pocket to pick up this first down, hopefully. I don't care how much I run with him. I didn't expect for us to be in this game, so I'm going to take anything that we can get, and I've been so impressed with our offensive line keeping us in it, and now I'm going to find Garrett Schrader for the first down plus a little bit more. He's our biggest target, so he's tough to bring down, and I've yet to see what he can do if he has one-on-one coverage, but we're going to on this play, and Caleb Williams just underthrew that ball badly. That's going to make it 3rd and 10 for us, and I'm going to go to John Rice Plumlee on the halfback angle route. I don't know if he's going to make it there. He needs to keep on fighting, and I find it almost unbelievable that we are able to compete against Michigan, but I feel like I'm making all the right reads. It is 3rd and 5 now. I need to lock in to pick this one up, and we're going for a deeper route to Richardson, who drops the ball. So that's what you expect out of a team of quarterbacks, and I don't think I'm going to go for this. We have a lead, so with Fresno State quarterback Mikey Keene, I'm going to try to pin them back, and this ball is going to bounce perfectly. So I feel like I made the right decision, especially if we get a safety, but Blake Corum almost got out of there, and I'm glad that Michigan's going to just take this one to the half because I wasn't sure if we'd get another stop on defense. I cannot believe we are in this position, but I'm going to try to chew clock as much as I can here in the second half, and on a big 3rd and 3, they aren't going to send much pressure, so I'm just going to hit John Rice Plumlee, but he was out of bounds. This might be the worst wheel route that I have ever seen a player try to run, but Michigan has it back now, and it's not looking very good for us as we're not able to stop the run, still getting another first down. It turns out Will Howard's not very good at filling those gaps, and Blake Corum has been left wide open. We cannot make the tackle with Painter. This isn't good, boys. This is not good. Jalen Rayner literally just got sent into another dimension, and I don't think a flag's going to bail us out on the goal line again. If we can make a tackle with Millen, though, that'd be big. 3rd and 5, and the second I start making any mistakes, all of this run is over, but we should stop them. That's 4th and 1, so we still have a chance at winning this game, and I've been so impressed at how our undersized offensive line performs, but we're going to fumble this ball. Sam Jackson picks it up, and we just got very, very lucky because that could have backfired terribly for us. And here on 3rd and 6, they're going with man-to-man coverage, but they can't keep up with Sam Jackson the 5th. I told you all that he was going to be a menace out of the slot, but we had no blocks there. So we are in another 3rd and long situation. It is man-to-man coverage, and Caleb Williams is getting pressured, which means we have no choice but to punt it back to Michigan, and that punt is going to bounce a ton because of how short it was. I will take this, actually. We're going to pin them back pretty far if we can make a tackle with one of these QBs. Our defense is ranked 116th in the country, so I'm not looking forward to relying on it, and Roman Wilson just gashed everybody. I know he is quick, and none of these QBs can keep up, but that's such a brutal way for that drive to go, and all of the pressure is now on Caleb Williams, but our offense seems to be okay as that's a first down, and what's going on? I've been very impressed with how good everybody's route running is. I mean, these guys should not be that solid. Garrett Schrader somehow juked that guy out, and he's going to take this one to the crib. I knew he was going to be good. It took us a while, but the game's opening up, and EJ Warner's been great, so we are back up by 4 points, and I've learned from the last drive to not run any man-to-man coverage at all. If we're going to get a stop, we're going to have to stick in zone, but that's not looking great either, so we just have to hope that JJ McCarthy screws up, and they're going to take the flat, so we'll make a tackle and bounce. Here on 2nd and 6, we're going with a cover 2, and Roman Wilson is wide open on the right side of the field. So once again, Malik Hornsby is back here to take the kickoff, and I'm going to try to swerve this defender out, a little bit of a juke inside, and that was incredible from him. He doesn't move like he plays quarterback, and now we need to focus up because we need to get at least a field goal on this drive, but I didn't see anything I wanted to take until later on, and look at Singleton holding on. With 60 kick power and kick accuracy, I'm not sure what EJ Turner's range is looking like, so we probably need to get a lot closer, and this might be the wrong decision, but they are giving us the look with Garrett Schrader, our 6'4" wide receiver over there, so I'm going to throw it up to him, but he did not stand a chance at catching that ball. Now it's 3rd and 4. They got some free rushers, and Caleb Williams still makes the play, but Sam Jackson the 5th, who has been so good for us, dropped the ball. I don't think we can kick from here, so we need to go for it, and that's a zone over there. That was a risky decision, but Sam Jackson the 5th dropped the football again, and even if it was a tight read, it was put in a position where he should have caught it. We came so close to pulling it off, but getting a championship with this team would have been almost impossible, and instead of just giving away one jersey to a random commenter, I have to give away 2. Maybe I'll do better with a team of wide receivers receivers like Roman Wilson. So if you want to see that video in the near future, make sure you let me know by smashing that like button. But there's one final look at this great team, and if you want to see other videos similar to this one where I build a team, you can check out this playlist right here.